Hi everybody, it's Alex Tennis. Today I'm late, but I'm gonna do the Wilson Blade V8 16x19 review. Alright, so if you haven't followed me on my channel, you probably don't know this, but this racket is my older racket. I've made the switch to the Volkl C10 EVO for many reasons that I can explain in another video, but I was playing with this racket for the entire part of 2022. So I know really well this racket, so obviously I can't lie to you, can make it like, oh, I don't know how this racket's gonna play and all that stuff. But I'm gonna talk about the specs, and then we're gonna go on the court to play with it, and then I'm gonna tell you my final rating. So stay tuned to see all of that. So this racket is really interesting because it's a classic, I feel now. Like the Wilson Blade is really enjoyed by a lot of competitive player and some of more, I would say, recreational player. And this version of the blade featured the 45 technology. What it's doing, it should increase the flexibility of the racket, and at the same time you should gain a bit more feel. And to be honest with you, and I know that I'm not alone, I didn't like the V7 version of the Wilson Blade. I liked more the V6 version. So I was really looking forward to see if the V8 would be just like the V6. So let's go with the specs. This is a 98 square inch head size racket. It's a 16x19 and it's a 305 gram unstrung weight. So pretty standard, I would say, specs. Now let's go with the cosmetic. You know, when Wilson first released this racket, it was the first of the Wilson brand that had this type of cosmetic. And to be honest with you, I still don't know if I like it or not. Because now we know how the clash look, the blade looks, even the pro staff. And I feel like this one is okay, but I'm not a fan of that kind of bronze that is in there. I like the green because obviously the blade is now green since, I would say, a couple of years, since 2013, I think so, the V5. But yeah, they could, you know, I've made this look a bit better, to be honest with you. But it doesn't really matter, obviously, because the only thing that matters if this racket is good on the court or not. And talking about that, we're gonna do that. Let's go. Alright, with the Wilson Blade V8 16x19 on the court, I have to say I really like this racket for many things. First of all, it has a lot of control. It has, I would say, quite fairly a lot of power. Actually, it's pretty easy to create power with this racket. I really like the 45 technology in that one because it creates a bit more flex, so it's a bit more comfortable to play with it. But I would say that the downgrade of it is the fact that the racket is not that much stable. When I was playing with the blade, I had to add a bit of weight at 3 and 9 because I felt like the racket was always turning when I was hitting, I would say, more heavy shot. But other than that, it's a really versatile racket. I really like it for pretty much everything. It's good for every touch shot, every slice, every spin shot. For the serve, it's a pretty good racket, although it lacked a bit of stability, so on second serve and on big bombs, it's a bit tougher to get power. But other than that, it's a pretty solid racket. Alright, so now that you know my thoughts about this racket, I want to talk specific topics. Recently I was, you know, searching about, you know, this racket before I was doing this review, because I'm always trying to do my research about what people think about this racket and all that stuff. And this racket has been out for a couple of times, so people have had the time to buy the racket and then have a full review of it and then maybe switch. I've seen that many people have bought this racket, were like in love with it, and then finally just switch after a couple of months. And I'm one of those people. And the reason is the fact that when this racket got out, it was incredibly good. It was new. The 45 technology was incredibly good, and so the blade gained, first of all, many new fans to it because it was easier to play with it. But also the older fan of the blade just liked the, I don't know, the better feeling that this racket had compared to the V7. And after a couple of times, you know, people started to realize that you know, it's a fine racket, but we're getting, you know, tired of that 45 technology and that flexible racket. It's not that it's a bad racket, it's just that there's something better on the market for you. And I feel like for me personally, that's really what happened. You know, my Volkl C10 EVO is not that much different from this racket. It's just more stable and I just like it more than the blade. But if you're a fan of the Wilson blade and you just want to upgrade your racket, I mean, this is the one that you need to go to. If you're a fan of the Radical MP, even a bit like a Speed MP, you could be really surprised by the Wilson blade, but just try it before you buy it, because the feel is kind of different. I don't know if this racket would go down as a iconic racket or not, because just like I've said, you know, it was the first racket that had that type of feel, or maybe it would go down as that, you know, first of, but not the best of. So we'll see. Now it's time for the rating. Like I said, I still enjoy this racket. You know, I feel like I'm talking a bit like negatively about this racket, but just to make sure, I really like this racket. Like, it's one of my top rackets. And so for that reason, I think I would go with 8.45 out of 10. And the reason why I'm going with this like really precise rating is the fact that I gave 8.4 for the Bavara Aero, and I gave 8.5 to the Volkl C10 EVO. And I feel like it's in between those rackets, so that's why I'm forced to go with 8.45 out of 10. So that's it. That was the review. Hope you liked it. Don't forget to like, to comment, and to subscribe. And see you next time. Bye bye.